felt really brave after my actual talk appeared to be less scary than I had anticipated. So I want to talk to you about the way that we ask for phone numbers in forms. This is a thing that we have been doing for quite a long time in order to be able to contact people. We've been doing it in analog forms, and we're doing it in digital forms now. But over those years, the way our phones have changed, and the way that we ask for a phone number hasn't. So actually, need to find this. While we use phones now both for text-based communication and calling people. So while actually our phones have changed, the way we ask for phone numbers hasn't. And while we're using phones both for text-based and communication and calling, we don't really actually ask the people which way they prefer to use their phone. And there are a lot of people out there who are less comfortable with one of those ways, or who are not able to use one of those ways of using a phone. And that's why this is not such a good thing, and when it turns into an obligatory field, it becomes really a barrier for people to attend the event that this form belongs to, or whatever. So here's an alternative. Here we ask for a phone number, and we say we let the person who fills the form choose whether we can use this number for calling or for text or for both. There's also another alternative right here. This can be used, for example, when we really, really need a number we can call to. Then we can have two phone number fields, and just a person who don't want to be called himself or herself or themselves, they put their phone number, like I would put my phone number in the text-based communication thing, and I would put the phone number of someone, of a friend or family member in the other one. And I have actually seen these in the wild 2 or 3 times, not so much, but I forgot where exactly. So if you spot one of those more accessible ways of asking for a phone number, then please tell me, then I can add some links to examples. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, better. So let's talk about Factory Boy. First, a short question. Who here doesn't know what Factory Boy is used for? Okay, perfect. I've got just the slides for this. So, Factory Boy is a small library intended to help you write shorter and more readable tests. Currently, most of your tests will look like this. You create a bunch of objects with all their fields. Lots of code. You only wanted one movie published in 2038. Why do you have to describe all fields? But lots of code. So maybe you just write a fixture instead. Yeah, and that's hell to maintain. If you use Factory Boy, you just write this. Give me a movie published in 2038. Period. Lots of other features. So let's have a look at the life of the project. It began in 2010, supporting Django and pure Python objects, written by someone called Mark Sunstorm, who went inactive quite soon after creating the project, with a few helpers to define your factories, and a good inclination towards Django. So back then you had to write a factory which looked like this. This is how you build a movie. You give a title, which is some random string. You give a genre, a publication year, which is just the number of the movie added to 2000, and some other stuff like that. So it allows you to describe a recipe to build movies. Fast forward to now. We added 2 members of the team, so Jeff Winman, who's in charge of the SQL Alchemy bindings, and myself. We added some support for other object relational mappers, so SQL Alchemy, Mogo, MongoDB, and lots of new features. Subfactory, which helps you declare that handle foreign keys to other objects. Faker and fuzzy, which are helpers to get more improved random objects, helpers for batch creation, and some special Django with helpers to create images or get or to handle get or create in your models. So now your factory looks like this. You just say, hey, that's for a movie, and title is my unique field, and give me some catchphrase for the title, and I want something that looks good, but I don't want to have some clumsy text. And whatever you're between those limits, and some text for the description. And so it's easier to get more realistic looking data. So what's next? Maybe integration with PyTest, with JSON schema, automatic factory declaration, super fast batch creation, lots of things. What I would love to do is to be able to say, give me a factory for movie, just discover what a movie is and build a factory. So now, I need you to join the team, writing documentation, examples. So join me at sprints.
Thank you, Rafael. And join the Factory Boy sprint.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about opening proprietary networks with OpenWisp. So, dealing with networks sucks. And developing applications to deploy and manage network is hard. And harder than we should allow it to be. Most hardware and software used to deploy and manage networks is proprietary. And vendors do their best to lock users within the hardware and software, and are often slow to patch their security vulnerabilities. And this environment doesn't leave much space for experimentation, which in turn leads to slow innovation. Have you noticed Wi-Fi usually sucks at events? This must remind you something. Software that solves this problem exists, but it may cost you a kidney. Have you ever tried to build one of these? Internet infrastructure, public Wi-Fi, mesh networks? Let me tell you, it's hard and costs a lot of money. As a direct consequence of this situation, as of 2017, half of the human population is still offline. So how can we talk about diversity in tech if half of the human population cannot even connect to the internet? Nikola Tesla is not happy about this situation. So what can we do? There's no silver bullet because it's a hard problem, but the OpenWisp project has been working on these issues for a while. So what is OpenWisp? It's a set of software modules that can be used to deploy and manage wireless networks, public Wi-Fi, backbone, or mesh networks. OpenWisp 2 is a new generation of these softwares, which is built in Python and Django, and follows a more modular approach, and has been attracting a lot of interest from emergent economies. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about OpenWisp and its internals next Saturday at PyCon Italy. The talk is entitled Applying the Unix Philosophy to Django Projects. So, if you're intrigued by this idea that we should do something to improve this situation, or have critical feedback, ideas, suggestions, or just curious, talk to me. Don't hesitate. And if you want to find more information about OpenWisp, go to openwisp.org or the OpenWisp organization on GitHub and have a look. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federico. Next speaker on stage.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a freelance programmer. I've been using Django for about 8 years. Been developer for about 10 years. Always looking for good people to work with, so a little bit of a plug for me there. One morning I decided I just woke up and thought, hey, why don't I just write my own file system? And so I looked at Python Fuse and thought, hey, okay, this can't be too difficult. You have to implement an API looking something like this, which is a bit mad. I was doing some Django development at the time, and I thought I saw all these paths and things like that, and thought, maybe we could do something here. Because I didn't really want to write all this stuff, and it was only going to be a toy anyway, so yeah. So I ended up deciding to refactor this into a way of abusing I almost said using there, but it just genuinely is abusing Django to write your own file system. So each part of the file system should look like a Django view. I mean, we're all used to Django views. And we can use the URL mapper, because Django's got quite a good one. So I ended up with something like this. You set a fuse L-conf, it's just like your normal L-conf. You set some Ls up, you set some views. So index there is will return a whole bunch of stuff in the directory. And then if you hit file.txt, you get a file response, which is sort of like a HTTP response, but a file. So just to quickly see this in action, manage by mount point, you do an ls on that directory and you see that file. So that's coming from the directory response on the previous slide. And then when we view the contents of that file with cat, we see file.txt. You can then start to do a little bit more crazy dynamic things. So our index will generate a whole bunch of sort of fake dummy files called a, b, c.txt, and the contents are dynamically generated like that. So if you cat d to txt, you just get d.txt, you know, the contents that we generate in our letter view. You can also just snarf stuff out of a database. So this gets from my model. So if you can see the second line of our letter view, it's actually using completely dynamically generated file system contents. Why would you want to do this? You probably wouldn't, but you know, it's just kind of random, and you know, why not? You know, you wake up one day and just think, yeah, this is a bit ugly. So yeah, if you want to see more about that, follow me, whatever, yeah, or just not use this because it's mad, you know, whatever. Enjoy.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Hi, my name is Christian Cebulski, and I have a strange passion for web application account sign-up forms. Now, one thing that anyone that has an account sign-up form wants to do is get people to sign up. Many people make unfortunate mistakes in that, and one of the classic mistakes is that they ask for way too much information. The goal is to get someone into a trial, into a web app, into a service, to get to explore. And developers a lot of time ask for just a trove of information that's way too much. The general wisdom is fewer fields, more signups, and that's what we're going to take a look at quickly. See some of the false justification people use to add lots of fields. Often we see forms that are similar to this that just ask for way too much information than is really necessary. Now, first we're going to look at some of the things that are purely optional, such as company, phone number, as well as company size. These things are useful to marketing departments, and while they have a value, it shouldn't be asked for at the very beginning. It's perfectly justifiable just to get rid of these fields, and then later on, once a person starts using your application, ask for it at an appropriate time. People are much more likely to provide that information after they've gotten familiar with your application and want to continue using it than they are to fill out a form with lots of fields. Now we have a smaller form. We have more fields to remove. The next field we can remove is the confirm password field, which is really more of an anarchism right away. There are many reasons, and we can speak about them why it is bad. I think there's some bad practices, weaker passwords, copy and pasting. We can definitely get rid of that. Worst comes to worst, if someone mistypes a password, they can use password recovery to get it back. We're down to 4 fields. First name and last name, while it seems like it's important, really it is optional as well, because you can have a perfectly good working functional account in a web application without actually them knowing what your name is. We get rid of 2 more fields, extra steps. If we find it really necessary, we can continue to ask for it later on in a nice way. Hey, we'd like to know who you are. Would you mind updating your profile? So we're down to 2 fields right now, and it seems that this is as small as we can go. There's a wise man once said that something's not perfect when you can't add anything else to it, but rather when you can't remove anything else from it. And I'll challenge you that you can remove more things. You can get rid of the password completely. Someone provides your email address, an account is created for them immediately without a password, and they can use your application. If they decide it's worthwhile, they can provide a password. If they come back in a few days, they still have the session information, and they can continue using without the password. But we can go even better. We can remove the email completely. And you just have a try button. You're immediately brought to the application. Your user identifier is your session ID. If someone is gracious enough to provide you an email because they do want to come back to it, they can, but they don't really need to give you the email front. That's it. I love sign-up forms. There's a more in-depth article on this right here.
Thank you for providing a healthy diet to our forms.
Ready. So when Mark gave his talk earlier today and started talking about descriptors and people seemed a little confused about them, I remember I had this talk that helped other people understand descriptors. So describing descriptors, or when an attribute is not an attribute. Everyone knows that a class has a type, and a type of an instance is its class. That's pretty simple. Classes can have attributes, which all instances of that class share, and they're mutable. So if you go and set it to 5, everybody shares the same number. Instances have a dunder-dict attribute, which holds all the attributes set on that instance so that they can keep it separate from everybody else. How does that work? Well, when we're trying to look up a.foo, we go and say, hey, is foo in the a-dict? No? Well, let's get the type of foo and see if it's in its dict. This is all in the Python documentation if you want it. But wait, it's a little bit more. If the object you actually pull out of there has a dunder-get method, then things go a little more different. So here we're going to set bar as false because we check on the instance, hey foo. So wait a minute, what just happened there? Well, so when the value is retrieved as a get, set, or delete method, the method is treated as a descriptor, and that means that when you try and, well, what we used to do is this, now becomes this. And it passes the instance and the type of the instance to our descriptor. Okay, so what can I do with it? Anyone here used the cached property from Django? Good. Anyone here now thinking, maybe that looks interesting. What's it doing? Well, when you decorate an object with it, or an attribute with it, a function normally, it holds onto it, gets its documentation politely. Then when you try to get the value, not fun. It calls your function, passing it the instance, so it'll act just like a method, gets whatever you gave it back, and sticks it in the instance dunder-dict under its function name. And that means that next time you look it up, it'll actually find it on the instance as dunder-dict. So here's an example. We're going to have a function foo, which prints it was called and returns a number 3 with its cached property. You call it, you access it the first time it's called, you access it the second time it's not. So you could have a very expensive lookup there, and the next time you access it, it's not done. What about type checking? Well, we can just do, that's it, I'm done, I tried. Okay.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today I would like to share with you my feature permission mini factory. My name is Elena. I'm a Romanian Django developer based in Paris, and I work for a company, for a startup called OptimData. We are aiming to make machines talk, but it's quite a long way to get there because first we need to make sure that we give the right access to the user, to the system. So basically we have a hierarchical structure where users are placed in different levels, and we have a special one which is the machine. Well, I'm not going to talk about that one. The most important bit that we want to have is this, the feature-based notification, the feature-based way of building the packages. So we would like to allow the clients to cherry pick which features they want to have, build a package, and then assign it to whichever hierarchical level they want to assign. Tiny disclaimer, I'm not using any of the good practices, maybe, I don't know, Django groups, Guardian, Django rules, etc. Nope. Well, the access to the hierarchy is done pretty simple by filtering the query set since the beginning, so we're good with that. But the problem is that we still need to solve the features thing. So for that, this is an example of a call for my permission factory, where I'm sending a dictionary where I define my where I assign the to my feature name the HTTP methods that I'm allowed to do for that particular model, for that particular view. This is how it looks like. But the most important bit is here I am checking the features from my users' subscription to make sure that they exist or allowed to be used for that particular, so if they have access to that particular view. So after that I can simply use it for all my permissions classes or for all my views, or I can then customize them depending on the route I'm deciding to have. The issue is that I'm not sure if this is the best practice of doing or the best way to do it, so I will be around here for the next 2 days, so I would be more than happy if you would like to share your experience with me, if you have a feature permission authentication subscription-based thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So, close. Okay. I'm Mislav. I'm a Python Django developer from Croatia. I'm doing development for many, many years now, and I'll be very quick. First, because I only have 3 minutes, and that can feel like eternity for me, because I don't like my voice very much on microphone. And second, because there isn't a lot to say about the subject at hand. So, I bet you all heard about the famous projects like Awesome Python, Awesome Django, Awesome CMS. We heard today about Awesome Boilerplates, like general Awesome List family. So I really like such lists, so I thought I decided to create my own list like that. But because all the smart lists were already created, I went the other way. So hence it created Awesome Dev Fun. So, Awesome Dev Fun is a list with libraries such as Comcastify, Elevator.js, PyTest VW, Trump Script, Outcognito Mode. I really like Outcognito Mode. Yeah. So, that's it. It's on GitHub. Here's the short link for it. You can start it, you can make pull requests, you can talk to me about it. If you know a funny, awesome library that makes no sense, please talk to me about it. I'll add it, you can add it, everybody can add it, and that's it. Bang.
Thank you, Mislav.
Hey everyone, I'm Kim. I work at Divya, but I really don't have time to get into myself because I have like 27 slides. So I want to solve a problem. First of all, to see the problem, let's look at the typical Django app README. It looks something like that. Add my app to installed apps, include some URLs, maybe configure some environment variable, add context stuff, add middleware stuff, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And there's really a lot of issues with that. Wait, that's not supposed to happen. Okay. Anyway, you can't see the issues. I'm just going to quickly mention them. Like one of the issues would be like point of failure. You could misconfigure something you're not really experienced. You just want to try out the app. It's very time consuming sometimes, and you sometimes really don't know if it's going to work. So why? Let's just fix that. Obviously, we can't fix it for everyone, unfortunately, but we have an idea for Divya's project, our cloud. And I really want to show that in an example. So I'm using Django Chat. Django Chat is a theme for Django admin and other admin views or just general views. And these are the following steps. I want to create a wrapper add-on that uses, like, takes Django Chat, adds all these things that we have to add to the admin and upload it to the cloud, and then can easily install it into the project. I thought we had 3 minutes. Okay, it's 3 minutes, okay. So that's just the code of my config file, which you can see at the top. And I'm exactly doing basically what it says in the README, but just in code. So I'm setting like the URLs to our add-on, the URLs to the settings, which will then get parsed by our system. And I'm adding installed apps and the custom URLs pie, which really just includes Django Jet's URLs. We can go further with like configuration, but again, the screen's cut off, so let's not worry about that. And then I'll upload it to the cloud, install it using one button, deploy the project using one button. It's super fast because it's a screenshot, and we're already live. So that's how we're basically doing add-on development on Divio Cloud. So you might think, wait, what the fuck just happened? So we picked any add-on from Django packages, and we actually did this morning. We wanted to give ourselves a little challenge. I had absolutely no time. It was a bit ill. Maybe you can hear it. To prepare anything, unfortunately. So we took any add-on. We went through what's like kind of difficult, but not as difficult, so that I can fit it into 3 minutes and still talk about it. Really? Okay. Yeah, and then we just grabbed, like really, we just went through the tutorial on the README on Django Chat itself, put that all into code, uploaded it, deployed it, and it works. And I didn't even try before, so I just was really impressed. So if you want to know more, we have a workshop tomorrow about exactly this topic at 2:30. Please come. Please sign up. Don't forget to sign up.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm Karina, and this is my first DjangoCon, and I really liked it. And what I liked about one thing that I liked about it is that there was a good balance of tech talks and not tech talks, and many of them were about inclusion, well, gender expression, sexual orientation, ethnicity, neurodiversity, age, religion, disabilities. Yeah, okay. And yeah, the list, and probably I didn't include something else here also. Well, I know that most people here approve and welcome those talks about like non-tech talks and talks about inclusion, but I also talked to some people who found those talks boring, or some people said they already know everything about it. So here's an example with one conversation that I had today. It was about gender. Well, at first, I remember this from watching on YouTube some talk from earlier PyCons or DjangoCons that you shouldn't ask, at first you shouldn't ask for gender. But in some cases, well, it just happens that you need to. I noticed like that sometimes it's it's like this, male and female, and notice that male comes first. I know that not all of you do that, but it still happens. And I can see no logic why male should go before female, because alphabetically it's first female and then male. In English, in other languages, different, but also we should include more genders or neither, like more options, neither. Okay, and thanks.
Thanks, Karina.
Okay, hello. So I'd like to talk about, I'm Pavel from Codility. I'd like to talk about passing initial data to React components. And the example use case is if you have a list of items, which is loaded by the front end from the back end, and it's quite static, but different between users, and it has some secrets, so you cannot load all of it to the front end and filter it front end side. Yes, how do you do it? So the best solution currently is probably using server-side rendering, so that you render React server-side, but it's easy only if your backend is Node.js. And guess what? Mine is not. So the most popular solution is to use Ajax. So you have an endpoint, and you load it using Ajax, but the result is something like this. So if you do it well, you see some loaders or placeholders. If you do it badly, you will see just a blank page. So perhaps better make it synchronous. So how do you do it? How about this? You can just have a snippet in your template and put some data from the template into the JavaScript snippet. But, well, it's quite horrible because all the variables are global and the code is ugly, not testable. There are potential security issues. So our answer to this problem is data bags, which is basically an application JSON script which is rendered in the templates. So we have a template tag that converts some data, which is passed from the view, and safely renders an application JSON snippet. So then it's easy to get in JavaScript. But we can make one more step. We can have a default data bag in the base template. We call it context. So it's equivalent to the context in Django views. So it's always rendered. And if you pass some data to the context, it will just show up in the proper place and will be available to pick up by JavaScript. So it's very simple, and you don't have to mess up with your templates at all. You just return data from your views, and you can pick them up in JavaScript. Yeah, so thank you.